Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. It is your boy, The Geek Takeover. I am back here with another video talking about things that were changed in the Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 4. Today we are talking about Thor, Love and Thunder. If you missed our last video, we talked about Doctor Strange. You guys can check that out right over there. If you're wondering where movies like Spider-Man and Black Panther are, you can check Black Panther right over here, and you can check Spider-Man right over here. But today we're talking about a movie that was made by Marvel. Certainly was not the best movie. That's all I want to say about that. So let's just jump straight into it. Let's start talking about Taika Waititi's vision shift. Now, Taika Waititi has gone on record saying that he wanted this movie to have a more romantical feel to it, with fresh emotional beats. And that alone should tell you something very important, because it did not come across that way. That meant shifting away from earlier ideas and even from what worked in the previous Thor movies. So instead of leaning into the momentum that Ragnarok gave Waititi, or the momentum that Endgame and Infinity War gave to Thor, we're suddenly chasing an emotion, but not always earning it. So Taika had such a unique idea with Ragnarok, and it worked out so well. And he, I think, tried a little too hard with Love and Thunder. And unfortunately, as you will see later on in this video, it just didn't work. Talking about not working, James Gunn. This man stepped in to help with the script, if you will. So James Gunn actually requested script changes for how the Guardians were portrayed in Love and Thunder, and Marvel made those accommodations. This situation is eerily similar to how the Russos did the Guardians in Infinity War and Endgame, when they killed off Gamora. Because James Gunn, from my understanding and reports that I've seen, he was not consulted about killing Gamora, and it changed his plans for the Guardians of the Galaxy. So this time, he took matters into his own hands, and before Taika could do anything with the Guardians, he said, nope, no, these are my guys. You can have them for a little bit, but please do not ruin anything that could derail Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Thank you very much. And you know what? For the little bit that they were in this movie, it worked. Get those teams away from them, because Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is a beautiful cinematic masterpiece of a movie, and I cannot wait to talk about that. That'll be a fun one. But, moving on. The reshoots that maybe saved the movie just a little bit, un poquito. One of the most important parts of this movie was the montage showing Thor and Jane's past relationship, because as you are aware, in Ragnarok we learned that they broke up. There was no real explanation, they just broke up. And originally that was not in the movie, the montage I mean. The entire emotional backbone was added during reshoots, believe it or not, and not during physical photography. And that tells you a lot, because you're trying to sit there and tell me that Taika expected us as fans to see Thor and Jane reunited on screen, not wondering what happened, why did they break up, did Thor ever try and reach out, did Jane ever try and reach out, did they try and rekindle, what happened? We were just expected to understand this and be okay with it? What? Like, come on. We haven't seen Jane since the Dark World, where she had the ether shoved up her body, and then you heard her in Endgame, but that was it. Hell, the last scene that she was physically in wasn't even her, because she wasn't there on shooting, and Chris Hemsworth had to kiss his wife in the post-credit scene of Dark World, or was that the actual end of Dark World? I think it was the end of Dark World. But my point being is all of this was added in reshoots. Guys, like, if this montage wasn't added, it wouldn't have just been bad. It would have been way worse for the storytelling, because the emotional core of the film literally revolved around this entire thing, and it was added last minute. Make it make sense, Taika. Make it. You had us in your hands and you dropped the ball like what the fuck was his name? Zay Flowers of the Baltimore Ravens last year in the end zone against Buffalo. I think it was Zay Flowers. I don't know. Anyways, moving on to another topic that's going to piss me off. Cut characters and scenes and missed potentials, not scenes. So multiple MCU actors were reportedly shot scenes but never made the final cut. Christian Bale had confirmed Peter Dinklage, who was Eitri in Infinity War, Jeff Goldblum, the Grandmaster, were both involved and then removed. And personally, they both could have added something easily to this horrendous movie. Let's start with Peter Dinklage. He could have expanded on Thor's hammer and maybe how it was restored, maybe more mythological weight. Maybe he could have explained why it was keeping Jane alive. Maybe he could have found a way for it to help Jane. It could have explained why she can wield it. But never mind, no, that's Odinson magic. Scratch that. But there's just a little bit of backstory that he could have done with the hammer. Jeff Goldblum, on the other hand, well, that's pretty simple. A comic relief. He was hilarious in Ragnarok, and he's a hilarious actor. He's so talented. He could have been a revenge angle coming after Thor after what he did on Sakaar. He could have just been trying to create a new life for himself on New Asgard. He could be now working for Valkyrie, and he could be playing the Topaz role for Valkyrie's Grandmaster. Who knows? Speaking of missed potential, Christian Bale. This man was Batman in one of the highly regarded best DC movies, if not the best superhero movies of all time. I personally disagree. The Dark Knight. That Christian Bale, one of the most talented actors in Hollywood. You have him as the main villain, Gore the God Butcher, and you fumble it. I don't understand how you just fumble that so bad. I don't think they tapped into his true potentials as an actor. I don't think they tapped into the potential of the character. They did not flush him out. They didn't let him feel menacing. They didn't let him be a badass. His best scene was when they were on the black and white planet and they had like the whole fight between Thor, Valkyrie, and Mighty Thor versus him while they were trying to get the kids. And don't even get started on the kids. I didn't even include that in the rundown. But the floating head, like, guys, come on. Really? I'm good. But then there's the cherry on top. Marvel had Kurt Russell as Zeus. Hilarious, mind you. I don't have a problem with that. But then they also added Brett Goldstein as Hercules. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Until about 12 minutes ago, before I started getting ready to record, I forgot Hercules was in the MCU. Could not have told you that. I love Ted Lasso. So I love Brett. But you have this amazing character with a rich history, not even just in Marvel, but just in the mythos as Hercules and Zeus. You have Brett Goldstein, who was on such a roll with Ted Lasso. And I can guarantee you, 70% of fans, I don't think remember he's in the MCU. I genuinely don't. And we don't know if or when we are going to ever see these characters again. Will there be a fourth Thor movie? Probably. Maybe. No. Sorry. Fifth Thor movie. Will there? Who knows? Will we see him in Doomsday? Fuck no. Will we see him in Secret Wars? Maybe. But doubtful. But pivoting back to the Guardians problem. Now, originally the Guardians of the Galaxy were going to play a much bigger role in Taika's vision. Chris Pratt, Dave Bautista, Palm Clementine, Karen Gillan, Bradley Cooper, Sean Gunn, Vin Diesel, all of them, they were shaping up to what was almost going to feel like an Avengers 5 or a Captain America Civil War type vibes. But during development, that ensemble feel was pulled back. And to me, again, going back, that was James Gunn protecting his sandbox. He knew the vision that he wanted for Guardians 3. He knew what happened with Infinity War. He did not want this to happen again. And kudos to you, James. You did this, you made an amazing Guardians 3, and now you're in charge of DC. My flowers to you, man. My flowers. Luckily, we don't got to talk too much more about that. The only other thing that we really got to talk about is the release date. Now with a release date, there's always at least 3 or 4 pushbacks. So let's see. This movie was originally announced for November 5th, 2021. Then the movie got hit hard because of the COVID delays and everything needed to get pushed back. So it goes to February 11th, 2022, which is funny because that's in a couple days. That might, let me look at a calendar. The 11th, is that going to be when this is posted? No, it's going to be the day before this is posted. That's funny. Then it got pushed back to May 6th, 2022. And finally, it ultimately ended up on July 8th, 2022. By the time that it came out, the movie had been reworked, reshaped, reshot, so much that you can feel a tug-of-war on screen with the CGI, with the floating heads, the acting, the storytelling. It all didn't blend. And that is why Love and Thunder is just a messy movie. It's a movie that clearly didn't know what the hell it wanted until the very end. And when you look at the changes, the reshoots, the cut characters, and the behind-the-scenes power struggles, it makes a lot more sense on why the final product feels the way that it does. A complete mess from Ragnarok being a huge high for the Thor franchise, a huge high for Taika, and then you just fall down that hill. Fans are starting to turn on Taika. They don't really care for some of his stuff. The villain was a letdown. Hercules is MIA. Jane was in Valhalla with Heimdall. Doesn't matter. Is she going to come back? She probably will, because why would you make her Thor for one movie? Does that mean Heimdall's going to come back? I don't know. Idris should come back. He's one of the most talented. He's a talented actor, and they waste him. This movie was so bad. It's not the worst Phase 4 movie. God, I can't wait to fucking talk about that one. But you have Thor in the fur coat, the gas, and then you put him in the silly helmet. I want it to make sense. Taika, I thought you seemed like such a good director. What happened, bro? What happened? But before I get a headache because of how much this movie pisses me off, I'm just going to go, taking a leave, lay in bed, and enjoy the rest of my night. So please, if you did like this video, go ahead and show some support by hitting the like button, subscribe for more content, share with your friends, and for the love of all, tell me what you guys think about Love and Thunder. If you like it, tell me why. If you don't, tell me why. Just do you guys agree with what happened? Do you think there's anything that they could have changed that would have made this a better movie? Only one way to find out. But until next time, just a little taste for what's coming next. We got some hot movies that are coming. We got a couple of videos talking about our favorite MCU costumes. We got Daredevil coming up in about a month. So strap in, ladies and gentlemen, because we are about to go on the rocket for 2026. Until next time, this has been the Geek Takeover, signing off. Down, stop production.